Thank you for staying with us. The Senate has fully backed the Supreme Court's judgment, which granted financial autonomy to the 774 local government councils across Nigeria. This autonomy allows them to manage their affairs, develop policy direction, and promote grassroots democracy. On the 11th of July 2024, the Supreme Court granted the local government full autonomy. The Senate has urged all states and local governments to comply fully with the Supreme Court's judgment on the disbursement and utilization of funds to the third tier of government. Additionally, the Senate has assured that it will work with the House of Representatives to amend relevant provisions of the Constitution to provide for the full autonomy of local governments in the country. We're joined in the studio by Dr. Segun Oshile, an author and public affairs analyst, to talk to us about this move by the Senate. Good morning.
Morning.
It's good to have you join us.
Thank you.
Now, some would wonder, why is it important for the Senate to, endorse or support what the Supreme Court has, finalized on, if I may use that word, because that is the apex when it comes to judiciary matters. So why then does the Senate have to look in the direction of saying, oh, we also need to support you? Will that force the hands of governors to toe the path of the Supreme Court?
Yeah, like you rightly said, the Supreme Court is the apex court of the land, and then the judgment is supreme. And it's also stated in the Constitution that when you have a judgment from the Supreme Court, it oversees every other judgment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So based on that, and in the interest of national development, there is a part of the Constitution that is called the living tree, which gives rise to what you call a growth, such that if there is any form of development in the Constitution, it allows it to expand. So that makes it easy for them to agree on those terms.
Right. So will that then force the hands of some governors who have been having issues with aligning with the decisions of the Supreme Court to, have no other option than to fall in line?
They have no option. I mean, it's succinct. The judgment is succinct, it's not ambiguous.
But some of them don't seem to agree.
Well, basically, like you said, some of them, I mean, I can tell you for free, the governor of my own state basically is somebody who follows the rule of law. And then if you have no skeleton in your cupboard, I guess the judgment is straightforward. It talks about financial autonomy, how the local governments will be autonomous, how the federal accounts will be directed straight to the state and to the local governments. So the question basically is, what are they doing with the funds if they don't have?
These are the questions the Nigerians have been asking. Yeah. But if you look at this matter, since the Supreme Court's ruling, judgment, Senator Nwoye, raised that point of order, on the floor of the National Assembly, and then it became, subject of, controversy and all of that. They were forced to closed door session and all of that, which lasted for like 2 hours. He was raising an allegation that some state governors and about maybe 9 others, and some other senators, they are also co-sponsoring legislative, what's it called?
Yes,
law for the states to ensure legislation. So for the states to mandate local government areas to remit to the joint account. And this is definitely like going against what the Supreme Court is, giving judgment on. And then if you look at section 162 of subsection 6 of the 1999 Constitution, which was created for the state local government joint, that actually created the state local government joint account. That's a JAC. If that is not, worked on by the senators or by the National Assembly, do you feel that this Supreme Court law might definitely, hold water?
Well, the section 162, subsection 5 and 6 is succinct, although there is a convolution in that statement, in that section, like section 6, which states that the state government, that's the joint funds coming from the federal government, there's going to be a joint account between the state and the local government. I want to break it down as simple as possible. So that's why I'm not going to use the terms as it is in the judgment, or in the Constitution, so that the listeners can understand, so that everybody can be carried along, such that the provision of the law has to possibly be remodeled. So that is one thing the Senate has to do, to remodel that section such that it gives express power from the federal account to the state, whereby the state is not acting as a trustee anymore. Because as it stands now, the state sees itself as a trustee for the local government. So if that is actually expunged from the Constitution or remodeled, then we have some clarity on that.
If we're looking at remodeling, what would you suggest, if I may use the word directly?
Yeah, quite a lot. I mean, but I just want to be brief on that. I think the first is to also ensure that because the way it is right now, it's supposed to be the third tier of the government. And then in a system of federalism, you're supposed to have the legislative, the judiciary, and the executive. So my question basically goes to the fact that the local government perhaps has an executive arm and has a legislative arm, but has no judiciary arm. So I guess that's one aspect they need to include in the Constitution for the local government. So to make it a complete tier for a government.
Really?
Because in federalism, you must have 3 arms.
Right.
So presently, or technically, they have 2 as we speak. Yeah.
Interesting stuff. But then, so others are saying that if you look at the power dynamics, state has a way of controlling the local government. We saw what happened in River State. And you said your governor respects, the rule of law. I don't know what state that is.
You want me to tell you?
No, it's good if you mention it.
Lagos State.
That is Lagos State.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but I can tell you that some CSOs, in one story that I read yesterday, they are actually, accusing Lagos State government of one way or the other trying to subvert the local government, into it. But that's not the conversation we want to be having. But this is to say that the Nigerian Constitution, most of the governors in the state, not all the governors, in the state, are not respecting it. We saw what happened in River State. Another state also conducted local government is the Benue State. We saw, how, in one fell swoop, one party winning most of the local government and all of that. But others are saying that with the state controlling the local government, federal government might, one way or the other, looking at the power dynamics, might also, one way or the other, control the local government by saying, okay, these people are not, this local government don't support us, the party, the ruling party, so we might stifle them of funds. Do you not see that playing out, for political reasons?
Well, I think that's preemptive. I think that aspect would be determined in a word that would say, when we get to that bridge, we'll cross it. But it's
we always have to get to the bridge before we cross it.
Yeah, that's why I said it's preemptive.
Can we not,
the weight? Exactly. Yeah. Can we not be clairvoyant enough to say, okay, if this is going to happen, then this is what we should do, rather than getting there and start, running helter-skelter to determine what exactly we need to do to resolve the matter.
Yeah, when you know the way it is, when you have issues that linger around bickering, or there's rancor or the friction, you go to the courts. So basically, cannot at this point predict what's going to happen in the future, just like in the Constitution. I mean, nobody saw this come up 20, 30 years ago, but at some point when there's a growth in the economy and the future, it comes a point where you have to readdress issues and then possibly come back to the round table and have a discussion. So if we get to that point where perhaps, I don't think so, but if it ever happens, of course, we cannot take a physical approach. We'll have to take a legal step and then, of course, get a Supreme Court judgment.
What makes you feel we wouldn't get to that point?
Well, so many things. First of all, we have a judgment that subsists. And as we speak, I've not seen any governor that has come out in the open to give a contrary view on what the judgment states. They might be bickering within their own confines about what the judgment, perhaps looking at alternatives in such that they can divert funds. But again, with the local government being empowered, I guess they have the powers to go to the National Assembly to register their complaints, and then I'm sure they'll get some relief there, like just what happened in the House, in the Senate last week, where the governor made some plans to divert funds, create some escrow accounts where funds can be diverted. And I'm sure with the National Assembly being the watchdog, we'll be able to nip that in the bud.
Do they have to wait for the National Assembly to nip that? What about the state houses of assembly? Do you not feel that they are supposed to? I'm not sure whether you're referring to local governments maybe somewhat mismanaging funds, because financial autonomy is something that is quite desirable, what we've been fighting for. But the concern out there is that, okay, fine, what the state is actually doing to these funds, local governments who might definitely misappropriate these funds, mismanage these funds. So how do we ensure quality service delivery by the local government and ensure that they, get this trickles down to the underserved communities?
Well, I think that starts, when you're building a house, the first thing you want to look at is the foundation. What is your structure? So the question is now begging for an answer. Who are the local government chairmen? Who are you putting in power? Are they people who are accountable? Are they people who you can hold responsible? So when you have that in place, because once you get it wrong, then it's very easy for you to misappropriate the funds. If you have a local government chairman who perhaps was sponsored by some money bags, definitely you do not need a soothsayer to tell you where that ship is going to, in what direction that ship is going. It's definitely going to be diverting funds because it's going to be like a payback. So we need to get it right from the start. So one of the first things we want to do is, who are your local government chairmen? Who are those? What's their integrity?
How did they get there in the first place? Is it election or selection?
Yeah, because look at what you mentioned earlier on, talking about Rivers State, for instance, and then Benue State, even though the various key stakeholders or the governors of these states have come out to seemingly say that they have no hands in the outcome of the results of the local government election. They are concerned that if one party getting the support of perhaps the governor wins almost all local governments or local councils, and at the end of the day, you're talking about autonomy. Can this really be politically independent, autonomous as it is, knowing that I got the support of perhaps the governor, and here I am now? Do you think that the local government autonomy is still a reality, can be a reality with the kind of politics we run in this country?
Yeah, it is a reality if we change the narratives.
Where do we begin by changing the narrative?
To the grassroots. We need to have a level of orientation, letting them understand their rights and their privileges. Presently, a lot of people don't know their rights, they only know the privileges. Privileges of getting 2 Congos of rice and getting some 1 liter of oil.
Is that even a privilege?
Well, they don't, it's more like a privilege to them because that's where they sit. They don't know their rights. They don't know the rights that they pay the salaries of these people in power. It's from their taxpayers' money. So, I mean, right from the local government chairman to the vice chairman to the man in the House of Assembly to the governor to the man in the House of Rep and the senators, we taxpayers are the ones paying their salary. So for that reason, if I'm paying your salary, you need to make accounts to me. What are your job roles? What have you done at the end of the month? I want to see your work. I want to see what you have done, what you have left undone. So basically, what I'm saying here is, if the electorates can wake up to their responsibility, can wake up to their rights, that what they get from these political, I don't want to use the word shenanigans, not all of them, is not what they ought to get. I was at a town hall meeting on Friday where the man in the assembly in my constituency was able to give an account of what he's done in the last 1 year. Even though he has not completed all what he wanted to do, but I mean, there's some level of, that's engineer Rashid Shabi, but there's some level of interaction and accountability. I mean, for the very first time, saw people come out to appreciate some things. And I tell them, listen to me. If somebody is doing a drainage for you, somebody is doing a borehole for you, and you go and start saying thank you, I guess you don't know your rights. It's your money. Yes, you can say thank you out of courtesy, but not feeling indebted to that person. If I give you money to go get me something, and you bring it, and I say thank you, it's out of courtesy, but not like I'm indebted to you because it's my money. So we need to have an orientation with the grassroots. letting them understand that these people are just there to serve you. But it's the reverse in the case. Once they get into power, they reverend them. And then it's something that needs to change. If we get to that point where people understand that this is my rights, the guys in power will sit up.
That's right.
Something happened in Singapore where the students took to the street and asked the government to give account to them. Singapore is one of the best economies we have in the world right now.
Absolutely.
Something has to change.
That's right. So if you look at financial autonomy, it still borders on everything we're talking about. The state governments have been accused of going to the federal government with their begging bowls for allocations and all of that, and then we see the local governments being subservient to the states. At the same time, also be looking at, okay, we are waiting for our own national share of the national cake at the end of the month, or maybe quarter, or whenever they send the monies. But does this not put to question how they should also be creative, as much as we are tasking the state governments, how to be creative to generate funds, generate revenues in order to be able to say, yes, we have enough to deliver good governance to the people? What do you think local government, are they well equipped, or do you think they have that capacity or that mindset to be able to look inwards and say, this is where we want to generate funds, apart from the radio, TV license and some other, infinitesimal way of generating funds?
All right, so basically, they might need to expand the cost on that. Currently, the local governments have practically been stifled of their responsibilities. The state has taken over most of what they're supposed to do. I was among those who postulated the issue of the marriage registry. The marriage registry used to be under the state government. Somehow it's gone through under the local government rather. So right now it's between the federal government and the state government. The parks, although we don't even have many anyway, should be the responsibility of the local government. The abattoir, I guess we have just one in Lagos. So if we want to think outside the box, we need to start creating...
I think we have more than one.
Which?
There is another one in Oshodi on the bridge, very close there, and some other places where you can have your cow and everything.
You call it slaughter slab. I'm talking about an abattoir.
Okay. Okay.
I want to be succinct on that. There's what you call an abattoir, where you have everything working, and then you have a slaughter slab where some set of people just slaughter, pour water, and is unwholesome. Right. So I don't want to go in there. Okay. Now, we also look at other revenues like liquor. We also look at all the petty traders, the small businesses, the tax they get. But beyond that, we also have the parks and cemetery, right? I guess we only have few cemeteries in Lagos. So we need to think outside the box. I was speaking with the local government chairman 2 months ago regarding the cemetery. The Ato Cemetery is over 160 years old. And then I went there just to visit, and then I found out that some of those graves have caved in. Some people can't even recognize their dead bodies anymore because it's overpopulated. This is a cemetery that's been there for over 150 years, and nothing has come up again since then.
That crisis is not only in Lagos. I think UK is also facing the same thing, and they're looking at probably reusing the same cemetery, although it will be based on if the families of the dead agree to allowing them to, reusing this. Do you think that can also be implemented here?
It can be. There's also an option to do some cremation.
It's against some other people's belief.
Well, you have a lot of people who would not mind that. We have a lot of foreigners. Yeah, it's a choice. Yeah. Because you can't give what you don't have.
Right.
So basically, there are a lot of issues to be looked at. So there are other issues where there are other areas local government can make money. Looking at parking on the roads. Everywhere in the world, there are some areas you call the downtown. Downtown are areas you don't even want to take your car, because for every hour you spend there, you're going to pay for parking. But what happens in our own climb? Some Mutiu or Musilu goes there, collects 500 naira for his own pocket, and it's not remitted to the account of the government. So there are areas, you could generate IGR within the local government if you have the right people there who are visionaries. This has to be somebody who is a visionary, who can see that some people see the glass as half full, while others see it as half empty. So you need people who see the glass as half full, not half empty.
Interesting. Now, the role of the citizens, especially those at the grassroots, because I was interested in the conversation that you had at the town hall, how robust and engaging it was for a majority of the people that came, how it is that their representative got the feedback and that they could hold him to account if he did not deliver. Because I believe this is not the first time that conversation was being had.
Yeah.
So how has that helped the people get involved in governance, knowing that we tell our representative this is what we want, he is doing it, and is he really doing it, delivering on what the people want? Because this is not replicated across the country, it's not replicated everywhere. There's always the conversation around the office of the citizen and how it is the responsibility of citizens to hold persons they put in office to account, but we're not getting at that.
Well, like I said when we started this conversation, it has to do with the individual. Having the right person in power. Some people don't care. Some people are insensitive to people's feelings. They're only in power because of ego. Perhaps they want to alleviate poverty or they upgrade themselves. The reason they're in power. So you need to understand, why do you want to go into that office? Yeah. That has to be fundamental. It's not just because you've been in a party and you feel is more like a succession. It's looking more like a pecking order. So I've been here for 10 years, I've tried 2, 3 times, 4 times, and now it's my turn. No, we need to change the narratives. That's basically what the problem is. I see happen. You feel it is your rights. I've been in the party for 20 years. I've tried and 2, 3 times I've failed. Now it's my turn. And I think we need to shift the paradigm from that and go to people who, are you focused? What do you have? What are your, if you are not, I mean, during the regime of President Obasanjo, Lagos State was stifled of funds for almost a year. And the sitting governor, now the current, was able to generate funds. So if funds are not coming from the federal allocation, you as a local government, do you have a recipe to generate money to support? Because we might get to that point, we never know, where funds are not coming from salary. What do you do with healthcare? So
because this matter was on the table sometime many years ago, when this whole matter of local government autonomy was not a challenge. The matter of local governments not paying teachers, matters of corruption also coming to the fore. And so I'm saying, how do we hold them to account? You have said that you had a town hall, but not everyone is able to hold whoever their representatives are to account. Not everyone can speak to their local government chairman, but the office of the citizens should be something we should be pushing forward as it is right now in a democracy. It's critical.
So with that, I mean, that's why I said orientation matters a lot. Let people know.
Who gives the orientation?
Yeah, we have NGOs, we have individuals, we have activists who will do that. And one of the first things people should know is they have the right to recall their representative. You have the right. If you get to do a petition and the man knows that, wow, people don't understand their rights. And that's why people take them for granted. So they need that sensitization.
Do you know the process of a recall? It's a long one.
We need to start it. If we start it...
We tried it. I think in Kogi State with Dino Melaye or someone, yes. In Kogi State.
And then that's why he's not back. Because people were able to expose him. So we need to take that step. Somebody has to build the cards.
But then I'm not sure how people will now come together to say, yes, this person is not doing well. Because before we came on the air this morning, we were talking about certain places that are not fixed. You know, the roads, you know, water affecting them and all of that. And the message we got was, okay, because they do not vote the party in power. It's, you know, it belongs to the opposition people and all of that. So that's the reason why they're not fixing, even though they are fixing the backyards. But people that are around there, they don't support the government in power. How do you think we can have the people now say, okay, we are serviced, but others are not serviced? How do we now come together and say we want
with one voice?
We want with one voice. Do you not feel that the people have actually been divided in that process?
I agree with you to an extent, but like I said, I'll keep saying it. People need to be orientated. A lot of people do not understand their rights. A lot of people have also lost hope. I must tell you that. They've lost hope. They feel it's not doable anymore. And then we need to change the narratives on that. I was in a town in Autonomy in Delta State, and I was trying to talk to the people. You need to have this person in power. And the woman, she's 78. She told me, we do not need good roads anymore. We've been promised over and over again since Awolowo and all of that. We have lost hope. My children are abroad. I don't need any road anymore.
So what do they need?
Money to eat. Yeah, they've lost hope. And that is why you have the Jackpot syndrome. A lot of people have lost hope to the young ones.
Well, they feel
it's necrotic. You know, when you have in a disease condition, when you have a case where it has gone necrotic, like neoplastic, it's almost impossible to reverse it. So you now have to adopt either a system of surgery or chemo. So when you do surgery and then it seems like it's not working, you turn to chemo. When chemo fails, what happens? You get to a point and say, you know what, let's pray for this situation. That is where we are right now.
Well, very quickly, sorry to butt in. I love the illustration, but you know, you referenced Bola Tinubu when he was governor of Lagos State, and he was able to, was creative enough to generate funds and all of that. In fact, creating local councils, you know.
Our time is...
Oh, because of our time.
Yes, because our time is up. We just have to quickly move on now. I know that you needed to ask that question, but time is not our friend. And so we must thank you, Dr. Segun Oshile.